From Lewis in the Black Horse Pub. Good morning. I am simply an avatar. I'm not real. I'm image created. So I'm going to turn over this program to the two real figures, Philip Meredith and John Prideax. Good morning, gentlemen. What's it like talking to an avatar?
Well, can't tell the difference. Seamless.
Nor can I. I don't, Keith. I don't care what name you use for yourself. You're constant. You're constant in your demeanour and verbosity.
Well, that speaks millions for it, doesn't it? Okay, where you go?
No, John.
Yes.
Audio and image correction, whatever you want to call it. Does that about sum up the topic for today?
Yes, I think it does. So manipulation of images, audio, and then maybe, what do we do about it? What are people doing about it? What are the authorities doing about it?
Well, there is on iPlayer as we speak a documentary about I think it's called Not My Body.
Yes.
And it's the manipulation of pornographic images, but making them into celebrities and well-known figures, and how helpless they feel.
It's quite a serious issue, I think.
No, it is very serious.
I was wondering,
the law needs to catch up.
To lighten it a little, to start off, we can get serious shortly.
No, we don't need to.
I thought we could show some examples. I just want you to have a listen. I hope this is comes through okay. But I've got a little bit of an audio clip here. So see what you make of this. I'm going to play two clips.
Hidden away in the misty hills of East Sussex, there is a mysterious pub in which strange and quirky goings-on have been reported. Noises have been heard. Shadows have been cast at the strangest of hours. No one knew what it was until now.
So that was clip one.
Well, he had been in this place for such a long time. He'd forgotten how it felt to do anything else. I think he was scared to move. Scared of what might happen if he did.
So, did you hear that okay?
Yes, I did.
Two clips. So they're both using my voice.
Yes.
That's my sort of children's narration voice. Slightly different, perhaps, from my
well,
usual.
in the first one, you sounded a bit like Gollum from Lord of the Rings. I thought you were going to go "My Precious" or something like that. Anyway.
Yes. So one of those I was actually speaking, and one of those was generated by an AI tool. I wonder if you'd hazard a guess at which one was which.
Well, I think the first one was you. The second one was AI.
I would go along with that on the basis of logic, is that you must have said it first for it to be copied.
Well, I mean, you had a 50-50 chance, but you got it wrong. So,
well, what a surprise! So the
second one,
the Gollum speak was AI.
Yes, and the second one was actually me. Would you? I play. This is with my normal voice now, so I'll play two more. This was without a sort of narration.
I think cloning voices and putting words into people's mouths has a lot of potential dangers. Not least, it presents a real threat to the livelihoods of voiceover artists.
That's the first one.
Under the proposed amendments to existing laws, if the UK Home Office declined an update, it then could not be released in any other country.
So, feedback there. Yeah. So, any was that easier to tell the difference between those two?
There was a difference. The second one sounded much more like your natural voice.
Yes,
that rather common accent of yours.
I know. It seeped through, didn't it? I couldn't disguise it.
Even AI couldn't disguise that.
No. So, but I thought it was it was interesting because I had the idea. I thought, I wonder if I can, find something that will clone my voice. And literally, it took 5 minutes to find something. I signed up for a free trial. I think it cost me $1 so far. And now if I continue, it's something like $5 a month. It's very accessible.
Keith won't reimburse you. Mirador has no money, so I wouldn't. I
put the hint in there just in case.
No chance.
But
we make it we just don't pay out.
So I mean, the point is, it's pretty easy and cheap, and quite convincing for certain applications or certain things that people want to do. It's very easy. Sadiq Khan was a victim, and someone just got his voice off a clip online, and then use that sample to then get AI to get him to say things that he'd never actually said.
Yeah, well, that's extremely sinister. And the other part of what one of the voices said was that it really would have a bad effect on voiceover actors, wouldn't it?
I mean, for certain things, yeah. I mean, sort of basic commercials and things like that. It's very easy to just get a voice, and then you can continually use it, get it to say different things. So if you've got your, the voice that goes with your product, you can just you only need to book the artist for 5 or 10 minutes, and then use their voice ad infinitum, get them to say anything.
Yeah. I
mean, audio books in particular are very time consuming to do. They take hours to record an audio book, whereas with AI it takes minutes, if that.
Right. So are you telling us that you already realize that? Sorry, you're already aware that AI is used to do audiobooks?
I don't know if it's used to do audiobooks, but I can certainly see how it could be, just from that little example there.
Yes.
And you can adjust the I think it's called the sort of exaggeration. So you can adjust the dynamic and make it more dynamic, or you can sort of flatten it, make it less expressive. So there's little levers that you can use to adjust. I don't think you could, at the moment at least, you could take Stephen Fry's voice, who's a brilliant narrator, and you could make it sound like him narrating. But I think you lose a lot of the nuances that he puts in as he's reading. But for sort of basic stuff, and you just, for an author who can't afford to book a voiceover artist, they can translate their book, if you like, into an audio book for next to nothing. If
I mean, I have access to audiobooks because Spotify Premium, as you may know, offers audiobooks.
You've always struggled with your reading as well, haven't you, Phil?
That is the point. You see, I listen to music, I try and understand the lyrics, which is difficult, but actually to read something, I have always had difficulty. And so, as you can imagine, I've made so many mistakes in court, which is why I had to give up. It just got too much for the judges.
Amazing that they tolerated you for so long, really.
42 years. It's a long time,
Wow.
isn't it? It's a long time. But now the point I was going to make is the audiobooks are very rarely narrated by the author.
Exactly. Yeah, this usually
it's generally by a third party. So I
mm.
imagine you may agree that would make it even easier for an AI voice to do it, because people aren't expecting the author.
No, and they may not know, unless it's a well-known, or if the author and the publisher can afford it to get a big name to read the book. For most cases, when you hear a book being read, you don't actually know who's reading it. In fact,
your example of Fry is a unique one, because I think he does narrate his own stuff, and as you say, he is a superb narrator, and those nuances and emphases that add colour, if you like, to the narration, they would be lost, wouldn't they, with AI?
Yes, yeah, I think so.
I must say this: one of the problems with somebody of my ancient years is really my basics of computer skills come into play, and they are non-existent. I went to Chat GPT and asked it if it could write me a little story, and which it very politely said, "Yes, of course I can." So I said, "Will you please write a little story about a pub in Lewes in 800 AD?" Which it did, and it was brilliant. It named it, it put people in it, it gave a little story, and so on and so forth. Aha, I said, I can use my real skills, which is really voiceover rather than writing, and I can make a little story of it. Now, I go into Chat GPT, and it's not the same site. I don't know where the hell this thing is. So that's a real basic.
Yes, it's sometimes it's easy to lose things. I mean, it should keep hold of your history, at least for a certain amount of time. But you need to cut and paste it and save it as soon as you do it. Because if you ask it the same question again, it will give you a different. It won't give you the identical answer. It'll always be slightly different.
Well, if it can be a lot different, I can write an entire book with 3 questions.
Well, yeah, and then you could get it, and then you could turn it into an audio book at the drop of a hat as well.
Absolutely, yes.
So, it's interesting because there have been tools around that just synthesize voices, but they're very obvious. You see sort of cheap adverts that have got an artificial voice, but you can tell it sort of immediately. But the AI that copies a voice and then uses that seems to be very convincing, quite advanced now. But I think the other point is, so how do you detect and control the misuse? I mean, there's fraud as well. So I could, or somebody could perhaps get hold of my voice and phone up Phil and convince. I mean, he would never do this, but they may convince him that I'm in trouble and need some money sent to me.
Even if it were true, I wouldn't do a thing.
Yeah, so it's a bad example, really, because Phil wouldn't, even if he thought it was me, he wouldn't send me any money. So, but but you get the idea. It could be used to.
I'd send it to Sarah.
Oh, perhaps I should use her voice. No, good thinking.
Oh yeah, no, yes, please. Now you're talking.
I'll try that. I'll leave you a voice message.
Now you're talking, JP. At last, we've got there.
A question for you, Phil, from a viewer saying, does the barista serve coffee or deal in legal matters?
Well, it's a play on the word barrister. My coffee is not very good, but it's just a play on the word, because Keith, and John might, but there is is it a Cafe Nero on the high street in Lewes? Anyway, the coffee shop, the big chain shop. And when I was a practicing barrister, I knew the manager in there, the then manager, really very well. And I saw one of his servers wearing a T-shirt that said on the back, trainee barista. And I said, if you've got a very large one of those that might fit me, I'll buy it off you. He said, oh, don't worry about buying it off me. Here. So I wore for quite a while until lockdown made me even fatter than I was. I wore a maroon T-shirt declaring myself to be a trainee barista. There we are.
Very good, very good. Yes, so there's there is sort of slowly. I think this is the other problem. Things are moving slowly. The controls and the laws around this are just not moving quick enough. And I had a look.
They're not moving at all.
No, well, yes, you're right. They're not moving at all. There is some in the EU are developing an AI Act, which is they think will come into force in 2024 at some point. But it puts a lot of onus on the content creator. So if I use AI inappropriately, I would be responsible, and they might be able to pursue me if they could find out that I'd done something that I shouldn't have. There's also a kind of categorization, which allows them to ban certain products if they believe that they're high risk. But interestingly, they categorize cloning and deep fakes as a low risk, so very light touch controls.
What, deep fakes?
Yes.
Low risk?
At the moment, this could change, but at the moment they've got that in the lowest category of risk.
Because that's exactly what I was mentioning at the beginning of the show, that a deep fake, am I right, means what I was describing, that you fake.
It could be very harmful. It could incite violence and retribution, and just disinformation that will cause people to act in a certain way. So you can use it.
Low risk. Well, I found that extraordinary. That's very European.
Yeah, I was surprised. And the UK's approach is to just leave it to all the current regulatory authorities, like the Financial Services Authority and the Information Commission, to develop their own policies and guidelines around AI. So if that feels rather disjointed, and I think it'll struggle to be effective. I think the bit they're missing, in my view, is the carriers of the information, the Facebooks and the Twitters and so on, who I think have a duty to detect and reveal fakes when they find them, and they sort of half-heartedly say that they will, but invariably they're too slow. They don't take content down until they're pressured into doing it, and they're not. They don't appear to be using tools. There are detection tools that are being developed. It's a bit of an arms race to detect fake content, and at the very least that could be used to warn people that what they're looking at could, even if it says this could be fake, be careful.
Well, I'm aware of a campaign in Lewis to demand from Facebook the removal of Keith Hayes, because he's a fake journalist and broadcaster, but they won't do it.
I think I found the real Keith. Let me just see if I found this. Let's see if this works. I can present. Hopefully I share the right thing. Could be dangerous. Select and screen. Here we go.
Please select the right images, John. Be very careful.
I know it's rather. It's funny, it says it shows you the screen you're going to share, but the one that's popping up doesn't look like. Anyway, let's try this. Oh, wait a minute. This might not work because I've got to change some settings. So maybe consider the legal aspects while I'm just pressing a few buttons here.
Can you see that?
Oh yes,
on my phone.
That's actually
that's what you sent me.
Here we go. We'll go for low tech. I don't know if you recognise. I think that's the real Keith. What do you think?
You could tell it's me by the ears.
Yes, yeah, that's the giveaway. I think. I did.
It's Lord of the Rings. I mean,
Just for fair.
If they make another Lord of the Rings 2,
yeah,
we could deep fake Keith as one of the characters in it.
There was also this fella I found as well.
Oh, there we are, the last of the Mohicans.
Well, yeah, we can have a real cast of characters from Mirador, can't we?
And then we could get them to speak as well. So there you go. So yes.
So how did you do those?
That was with a little app called PhotoLeap. PhotoLeap. Yeah. And it's a phone app. So the easiest way to do it was to get the pictures on my phone, and then you can. There's all sorts of different filters, as they call them, you can apply. There was there was one that a bride. That was a bit weird. But yes, it's
you coming over as a bride.
Yes, in the bridal outfit.
Yeah, but you are a cross dresser.
No one would have batted an eyelid. Yeah.
No, well, we who know you wouldn't, because what the viewer from Mirador won't know is that for years you did pantomimes.
Yeah, I was
and invariably played a female part.
Well, even my father didn't recognise me.
What, in one of the pantos?
Yeah. It took him. It was about halfway through when he discovered, when he sort of the penny dropped. Yeah. It's like, when's John? When's he coming on?
John, with these AI apps, what you've just done with the still photograph, can you do it on video?
I think you can. I've not tried it myself, but yes, you can. And the mouth syncing. You know, so you can get an image of someone talking, and then it will sync. It will move the lips to sync with whatever you're getting it to say as well.
Yeah.
So I think there wasn't there a Joe Biden video which was where they'd adjusted what he was saying and it looked like he was speaking. But
that's not the same as dubbing, is it? Or is it?
Well, it's sort of enhanced dubbing, if you like. So you dub a different audio, but then you make adjustments to the video as well to match, so the mouth matches the voice. So that, you know, there's a small section of the video that's being manipulated, whilst the rest remains genuine. So it's more difficult to detect.
If I did a report sitting here now, could you make me a replica stand outside the castle and do it from there?
Yeah, that would be relatively easy. We could put you in a different place, and also then manipulate what you might be saying.
How far away could you send him?
Well, probably we off the planet, I would imagine. We could
Antarctica.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
What I, you know, the image you did of him that I've called the Lord of the Rings. It would be great to me. I'd love it, and I think Barton would love it too. That if the intro to Mirador from the Black Horse pub, if that could be narrated by that image. So
yes,
we don't just get the voice, we get that image of Keith.
Well, I'll work on it. I'll work on that one for next time. See if we can see what we can do.
So he can narrate. Anchorman Keith narrates.
Yeah. We have Stuart lurking in the background now.
Yes, he always lurks.
He was a famous correspondent from Vietnam. So if in fact he read a report from Vietnam, could we put him
there? Yeah, why not? Let's put him in the jungle.
Yeah. We're talking about how you can transpose people to artificial intelligence. And I said, if you read a report here, can we put you in Vietnam reading? And they say, yes, they think they can. So we'll try that one day.
We'll try that.
The new John Pilger. Yeah.
There's one other thing that I think they can do or could be done. So the tools that are used to create the content, they could have like an invisible digital watermark in anything that's created by them. So you wouldn't be able to see it, but a system that was broadcasting that content would be able to use that to identify manufactured content from genuine. And it's those things which is, it needs to be immediate. It needs to catch these things at source. You can't wait until something's happened and then go, oh, you've been naughty, we're gonna prosecute you. You've got to put in controls, and I see no reason why it can't be done by the carriers. So my view is they need to be held much more to account. You mean
the outlets like
yes,
Facebook,
yeah,
YouTube,
the Mark Zuckerberg and
yeah.
yes. I don't think it's I don't think they can use the argument of free speech on manipulated content, because it's not at all free. It's not a
free
freedom.
No,
it's not
I
a freedom.
agree with you
It's not a freedom. It's control and
wearing my wig briefly again. It's not that.
Yes,
they have no right to do that.
Yeah.
In fact, on that subject, on Monday, Richard and I were discussing Bill of Rights, human rights, and so on. Because, in fact, we both have very strong views opposed to the Human Rights Act. We never approved of it, he and I. And he made the point that if you don't do something illegal in this country, in the United Kingdom, your rights remain intact without having to be written down. Because what you're writing down is the individual and his or her rights. There's nothing in there for the collective good. So it's not a community thing, it's an individual thing. And it's enshrined in law. Well, what you're describing is illegal or highly inappropriate using of technology, AI in this instance, to cause distress, confusion, and maybe even incite people. To me, that is wrongdoing, and they have no right to claim free speech.
No.
At all.
No, and I think this the technology opens this up. It's putting us in situations that we perhaps couldn't have imagined possible.
Absolutely.
And it's happening so fast that the normal kind of processes for responding and putting legislation in place is just way too slow. I know it's got to be, there's got to be a certain amount of care and consideration when you're doing these things. But
what will happen, John, is that eventually the cops and the CPS will find a way to prosecute these people using existing laws, like indecent images, extreme pornography, that sort of thing. And it'll be up to the judges. It'll be the judges who will put pressure on the legislature to do something about this, to make sure.
When they see something that doesn't that they can't, they know they should be able to do more, and they can't. They haven't got the tools, if you like.
No. So, example would be CPS and the prosecution barrister frame charges under the current law. It goes to court. Defendant pleads not guilty. By the end of the prosecution case, the defense people make a submission of no case because the Crown have not adduced evidence to prove the element of the offences. The judge feels constrained to chuck it out at half time, as we call it. And then it highlights the problem. And the more that's done, the more the pressure should be on the legislature. Because I don't think they've even started in Parliament. No. And the EU thing couldn't even be used as a blueprint because we're no longer in the EU.
No.
So it would never be part of our law anyway.
Yeah, and also these things can be, so even if a product was banned in the EU, it's a global. The internet is global. It knows no borders.
Correct.
So the content can be created outside of the jurisdiction, and then the content lands within the jurisdiction. So you need a different approach.
Well, actually, what seems to be happening is that the big boys like YouTube and Facebook set their own rules, which they call community standards. So wherever it is in the world, they are the arbiters of whether it's allowed or not.
Yeah. Although they do tend to put in the caveat, subject to local legislation. So so that can have all sorts of effects on what they do, both positive and negative. So, for example, if you're in a regime, so if they, when it comes to data privacy, for example, so they've got your data and they say they won't share it unless there's a legal requirement to do so. So where you've got a country that has sensible controls and requirements around data privacy, that's all well and good. But in a regime where the government is maybe persecuting and acting in an unfair way, can then demand information about their subjects, and Facebook would be obliged to hand it over because that's the local legal requirement.
Yes. Well, it's hard not to be serious about this, isn't it? Because whereas in the past you've made the point that this is all very experimental and if anything trendy and everybody's going very quickly and whatever, but in this episode of our chats, the point you've made is that what is actually already happening could well be very sinister.
And it happens before you've had a chance to even realize it's possible.
Yes. And once it's done, that's it. You can't do anything about it. You can't go retrospectively and sanction the makers.
No. I mean, education is another element, which is it's helpful if people can understand that what you're seeing isn't necessarily real, and where you kid yourself in thinking, oh, I'll be able to tell the difference. Actually, you won't be able to. So you need to be aware of that, I think. So and be cautious and circumspect about what you're looking at. So there's the old saying of don't believe what you read in the papers, but it goes way beyond that. I think now it's like you almost can't believe anything, or you've got to validate, you've got to check things out and do your own. Well,
hopefully, I'm sure Keith will agree. Hopefully, if there are people watching this, or there are people who will watch this, this is a very, very cogent message being given to wise people up.
Yeah, be careful.
Yes,
as
I mean,
Sergeant in Hill Street Blues.
We've had a bit of fun to begin with at the beginning of this program, but this is pretty serious stuff, and stuff that we've all got to be very careful about. Actually, Phil, thank goodness we've got you on the legal advice. We need to take this.
You've got to do something about Dolby. He's hilarious. I mean, yes. I know there's an audio system called a Dolby system, but
right.
his upstaging of you is just priceless.
I suppose would that be called the Dolby effect?
Yeah, quite.
Yes. Oh, that's it. Yes, the Dolby effect. Anyway, he's getting excited because he's got James McCleary on the phone, and Lewis has lost 30 million quid, and we want to know where it's gone. So we're going to follow this program with talking to James McCleary, or at least Stuart is going to talk to James McCleary. I sit on the sidelines on this. Thank you very much. Well, he can't have us now. Okay.
It's breaking news. Takes precedence.
This is hardly
it's one of those
Keith, this
things
is
that
hardly
is a concern.
encouraging JP to come back.
Sorry?
This is hardly encouraging John to come back in 2 weeks when you've got the Dolby effect.
Well,
Anyway, as the sergeant said in Hill Street Blues,
yeah.
after
Well,
every morning
I mean, to be
briefing,
quite honest with you, this highlights actually, as I said to you the other day, what's happening is that we're growing too big too quickly, and I am really being all things. Whereas the BBC would have 20 people handling this show this morning, it's just me, and so I have to readjust a little bit and ask for a little bit of leniency until such time as we get enough people to.
well, I think we'll sign off and leave you to the tender care of Stuart.
Very well. Okay, thank you. That was a very, very interesting program, I think. Thank you, John. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, and I'll sort out the screen sharing by then.
Yeah, super. Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Cheers.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.
All right, Stuart. Right. Okay. Hopefully James McCleary is there, who is due at 10 o'clock. It's a bit before that, but I don't mind taking him early because I think that we need to ask him very important things. So you can here is Stuart. Right. Okay. Hang on, people can hear you. Okay, sorry for that period of silence. We're just getting hold of James McCleary, who was the leader of the council, but is leader of the Lib Dems. Is that correct? And parliamentary candidate for the Liberal Democrats. Okay, come on in here, Stuart, and we should have James pop up any minute now. There we are. When we strip for action here, you see us. There's no fakery here. Okay. Do you want to sit down? Okay, there we go. So it's just to remind you that this is Stuart Dolby, a former Financial Times journalist and an international reporter who has spent time in both Vietnam and Northern Ireland for extended periods, reporting for the national press, and is now Mirador's political and local reporter, and comes up with some very interesting people to interview. And this morning he's got James McCleary. We've just sent a link to James, and waiting for him to tap on it and to appear in our holding, as we call it. And then we can put him on the air with you, and we can have a chat about some of the important things that are going on.
Here he is. Okay. Can you see? Hello? Hello, James? No sign of him.
No, because I have to go away from this site. Let me try again. Yes, okay, that's good. Right.
That should come up.
Messages.
There's McCleary. Right. All lowercase.
MAC what?
Right, sorry. J
Yes.
M
Yes.
A
Yes.
C C
CC.
L
Right.
E A R Y at gmail.com.
Gmail. Right. Okay.
Should come up now. Should go.
Right. Okay. Try that one. And it's all go this morning. Actually, Wednesday is always an interesting, very, very busy morning. For your information, we have a viewer Rupert Lloyd Thomas on this morning to watch.
We want James McCleary, not where is it?
Well, he'll come up here. He's got to push on the link. It doesn't happen immediately. So I'm sorry to keep you waiting, viewers, but sometimes the system depends upon email, and email isn't always is the best. I've had great trouble with email recently. And it's worked every other time that we've used it recently. So,
I received the link, but it doesn't work. Oh dear. What's happened? It's been happening all right. It's working all right all this morning. What's happening?
well, let's send it again.
Oh no, you've got the test wrong. Oh. That's it.
Just double check. He's got it, but here's your. Yes.
No, that's what this is. You need to join your phone.
Yeah.
Get there, we will get.
Oh, there we go. He's arrived. I heard the click. There we go.
Hi, Keith.
Good morning, James.
Good morning, James. We can
Let me put up.
Right.
There you go. Here he is.
James, there's a multitude of things to talk about. Yesterday, I don't know if you know Derek Haggard, who's a very, very good person who's involved in all these kind of issues. So, shall we start? Or what I was thinking, he's given me a great list of what he's got, and so I got the top of the list is the audit of accounts. I think perhaps we should leave that to the end because it's a bit long. So what Derek said, right, number one, right, all account. 10 million quid have come from government. Have the council got it already? And how is it being paid out? And is it subject to certain works? Do you know anything about that, James?
Possibly. I mean, that's the Homes England money. I mean, first of all, Stuart, it's worth remembering I'm not part of the council administration anymore. I'm the leader of the opposition. So, I mean, these are questions for the administration, not for me. I should say that at the beginning. I don't know the latest because I'm not part of the cabinet. But if that's the Homes England money for the North Street quarter, then no, they haven't received that money, I don't think. But you'd really have to ask the leader of the council or the relevant cabinet member what the latest is on that. My understanding was that there had been some difficulty with that funding, and I don't think it's just sitting in a bank account somewhere. That was my understanding, but that might be out of date now.
Right. Okay, number two. Have they sold the car park? And for how much?
Car park, what, in the North Street quarter, is that?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. There's a short answer to that. Again, have to ask someone in the administration.
Yeah.
I wonder before you go anywhere else, I'm interested in your answers, James. Two things. First of all, is the scrutiny committee still active, and does it have people such as yourself on it?
So yeah, it is very much so. It was renamed during the last administration. It's called the Policy and Performance Advisory Committee. You can find it on the website. And yes, I'm not on it, but it's chaired by a Liberal Democrat member, Christine Brett, who's a councillor from Seaford and is very excellent. And it has a number of other opposition members on it, and the purpose is to scrutinise all the items that are going to cabinet in advance, and they do a very good job of that. So yeah, no, that certainly does still exist. There's also the audit committee, which is also chaired by a Liberal Democrat opposition member on purpose, which is Stephen Gauntlet, who's also another very capable member of our group. So there is substantial scrutiny of the administration's policies and decisions by opposition members, I'd say.
And can I ask you one other question? Is in the past, the accusations against this scrutiny committee is that the executive, the chief executive, sets the agenda, not reporting.
That's not true. The Policy and Performance Advisory Committee, like any scrutiny committee, just determines its own agenda. The agenda is somewhat set because normally the agenda primarily is just the cabinet agenda and scrutinising each item on the cabinet agenda. But scrutiny can bring forward policy and PPAC, as it's called, its acronym, can bring forward any item it wishes to scrutinise and have a look at. So the chief executive doesn't set the agenda. The only agenda setting that's done for them is the fact that PPAC typically meets in advance of cabinet, and therefore the cabinet agenda forms that. But they've had people in, they called in people from Southern Water, for instance, to come and answer questions directly to them over sewage, which was their decision to do that as a committee rather than anybody else. So they're very capable of setting their own agenda.
Well, another problem it's got is why are they putting in so many EV charging points? Now, in my Energy Matters thing, which I know a great deal about, in EV cars and so on, in 2019, I went to a sustainability meeting, and they said, I won't say who said it, said, we are going to have climate zero carbon emissions by 2030. And I said, well, how are you going to do that? They said, well, we're going to have electric charging points for EV cars. That was 4 years ago. And how many charging points have we got now? About 10, as far as I can see.
Again, I mean, these are again questions for the administration, but I mean, there are charging points, I think, in all district council car parks now. So there'll be a lot more than 10 across the whole district. Obviously, I don't know how many there are in the town of Lewes itself, because obviously that's only one part of the district. But the council's objective is net zero by 2030. So yeah, I mean, that's part of that objective. But there's lots of other things happening at the same time. But I think it's important to have EV charging infrastructure in place across the district. I mean, the county council have lagged behind really badly with on-street charging capacity, which pretty much doesn't exist throughout the district. So I think it's a good step forward to have some EV charging in car parks for people who can't charge their home, who can't charge their cars at home, but also for people who are on the move, so they can park in the car parks and charge their cars up. It might, take up might be slow to start with, but EV is the future, and electric cars will be the dominant.
About the kind of thing, because lithium is very short on. It doesn't have very much. You can only do 300. It doesn't have the density. You can only do about 300 miles with it because the lithium is not quite right. The lithium is coming from Cornwall, basically, and you've got to worry about the density because in America, not only got road rage, they've got garage rage where they punch up, and that's likely to hear here, I reckon. But anyway, but fine. Just to change the thing, the District Council has launched its Reimagining Lewis. Have you seen this document?
Yeah, it's the council's corporate plan. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, can you give us any? Because I went down to the shop there, and of course it's not open. So I phoned up various people, and they said, "Oh, blimey!" And let me just tell you something. Look, you know that I know a great deal about green things because of my Green Barrel website, where I have actually, for years and years, written about green energy. But I've actually had, and I said the Green Party really is a party of protest, and basically, like Extinction Rebellion, it has very, very good aims, but doesn't achieve anything. And I've come to the conclusion that the Green-led party, I'm afraid, is very managerially incompetent about almost everything. And I think that's very, very worrying for us. And finally, so what? They got all that money for New Haven. What they done with that? What all kinds of things. They're not doing what they said they would do. And finally, if I may say so, before we talk to the audience, the Green Party have been telling people, green people, to go and support the human nature at the county hall on Thursday, which I think is a bit off, quickly. But look, can we talk about the audits and the audits thing?
But should we just give James a chance to respond to what you just said? Have you response to that, James?
I mean, what was the question? I mean, the Green Party are entitled to do what they like with their own supporters. I mean, it's not under my control. So if they want to encourage their supporters to go and support a planning application, they can. If they believe that's the right thing to do, it's not something we've done, but they're very welcome to do so. And to be honest with you, Stuart, small parties are parties of protest. I mean, at the end of the day, the Lib Dems have often been a repository for protest votes. I mean, you look at the Iraq War being a very good example. When people were protesting against that, and they voted Lib Dem as a result. And of course, we were a very strong protest vote over Brexit because we were the only party who really stood up and put our hands up and said this is a really terrible idea, which it was. So I think there's a little bit around that, but the rest of it you might be quite right. But in terms of how they behave themselves, that's down to them, not me.
On this question of right, but the whole thing now, the Lib Dems are going back to their idea of 28 billion, which bring the Green Revolution back, in short. Yeah?
That's the Labour. That was the Labour policy that they ditched.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. But the Lib Dems started that with Ed Miliband, didn't they? Way back, where he decided that you've got to have a Green Revolution. And,
Labour should. Yeah, I mean, Ed Miliband was the leader of the Labour Party. Yeah, so I mean, on that, I mean, I do understand what Labour are doing. I understand why they're being so cautious. I think though there's a lot of disappointment out there that there's not a lot that you could really say now from Labour is ambitious, and I think that's quite disappointing when they're almost certainly going to be the next government. You would expect to see some things that makes you excited, and I think that commitment to green transition was quite an interesting thing, and ditching it. And I understand why they did it. It was a real hostage to fortune for them, but it was one of those.
I don't know why they ditched it, because there was a big outrage about the nurses and the national health, that the money should go there and not for this high in the sky green politics. Yeah.
I think they ditched it because it was a number that the Conservative Party would have put on every single leaflet and said, look at this, crazy stuff Labour are doing. They're spending 28 billion a year. That adds up to this. How are they going to pay for it? Because we've bankrupted the country. And I think we're going to see the Tories do this a lot. I think you're going to see any spending commitments from any party, them saying, how are you going to pay for it? We ran the economy into the ground, so there's no money left. You're not allowed to do anything. So I think Labour got rid of it because they didn't want to be bashed about the head by the right-wing press all the way through to polling. Number.
Back in the day, when I used to know David, we used to go out to big conferences in Glasgow about renewable energy and things like that. And I thought, he was a very, very nice guy, because he said, well, we have to spend this money for infant industries and so forth and so on. So I got to know him quite well, and I thought, I think, Anyway, should we talk about the audited account?
In a moment, because I still just like to pursue this. James, the perceived wisdom of our form of governance in this country at all levels is that a strong opposition is required for decent governance by a democratically elected party. The Green Party swept the board. They decided to ally themselves with Labour and to wash their hands of the Lib Dems. You obviously have said in several instances now that you're not privy, because you're not part of the Green Party, or not allied with them. Doesn't that show a fundamental weakness in the governing party in understanding how our system of government should work?
How do you mean, Keith, in terms of information?
Well, they're obviously not including the Lib Dems with the really opposition party in a lot of their thinking and policy making. Is that they're doing it without you, and that to me shows a lack of understanding that they need to involve you because you're a big major party locally.
I don't. Well, I'm not sure that's quite fair. I mean, it's up to, if you run the council, it's up to you to run the council. You don't have to consult with everybody and everything you do. I mean, obviously, information is made public, and if we need to know things, we can find them out. I mean, the questions you've asked, I can go away and find out the answers to those things. It's just a difference between the mechanics. I mean, that you yourselves have not obviously been councillors in a cabinet and run a council. I mean, there's just a difference between being in opposition and running a council. It's like running a government or being in opposition. You can find things out. It's just a bit more tricky because the officers have only got limited time, so they're going to spend more time with the cabinet and with the leader of the council. So all I'm saying is, if you really want the sort of chapter and verse on all those things, it'd just be quicker and easier if you speak to Zoe Nicholson's leader of the council than ask me. But they are certainly a collaborative bunch, and I mean, we don't have any trouble getting information if we really, really need it. It's just that it doesn't come to you. You don't get as much kind of organically. Just you don't meet with officers as much. You don't have as much access to things as you would if you ran the council. Come 2027, we're only six councillors short of an overall majority on Lewis District Council, and we'll be hoping to return to power at that point, and hopefully it will be a Liberal Democrat administration, in which case it will be a very different situation. Well,
I'm sorry to say it, but it's this pernicious cabinet system which none of you want to get rid of, and which really most people consider to be not at all democratic.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's different views on the cabinet system, and I've seen committee systems work well in some places. It maybe something that they explore in the future, but obviously we've got what we've got at the moment. I mean, what all we can do is work with the structures that we have for the time being, and then see if we can revise them at some point in the future, Keith.
Okay, you can turn to your fiscal questions.
I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to find it. It's all in a bit of a mess, I'm afraid, but maybe we can find it. Simon.
So if this is about the audits, how late the District Council's audits have been. I mean, again, this is to do with the auditing company they use, which is Deloitte's, who I'm not very close to this, but my colleague Stephen Gauntlet is the chair of the audit committee and has been pushing very hard to get this sorted out. It's not something that is the specific responsibility, again, of this administration. This has been rumbling on for a very long time, and indeed
4 years, yeah.
And indeed, it's largely out of control of the council. This is mostly down to just pandemic plus the auditing company being encroached on. And Lewes District Council not the only council affected by this either. So it is something that's been a national problem. But Stephen's pushing really hard, and I think they're very close now. They're waiting for assessments on RAC, the concrete situation in our in the council's leisure centres, and that is imminent. That assessment, because that's part of the audit process. And once they have that, then we should be able to publish the whole lot. So hopefully we're not far away from being up to date with that. But Stephen is very much on the case with that and has been pushing very, very hard to get that resolved. Stephen Gauntlet, yeah. He's the chair of the audit committee.
Who is this Clues man? Is he's one as well?
Yeah, he's a Green councillor. He may well sit on the audit committee. I don't know the full membership of the committee off the top of my head.
I mean, with all due respect, I'm sorry, we're both very hard-nosed journalists, and if we're giving you a bad time, we're not going to apologise for it. We've heard this story about how it's all going to be sorted out very shortly for 4 years, and Zoe Nicholson said 3 or 4 weeks ago, be prepared for an increase in the council tax to the maximum. But what you're doing is you're asking your people in your remit, as it were, to give more money without being told where the last lot has gone, or the lot before that, or the lot before that, or the lot before that. I mean, even in natural justice, taking into account delays that occur in council, that seems to me to be a bit stretchy.
But also, Simon said that we're third from bottom in the whole country about audited accounts, and now it looks like we're going to be really on the bottom. But what is very, very interesting to me, anyway, is that why nobody actually bothered after 4 years to actually do something about it. You're saying all these things that this might be happening, might not happen. It's quite weird.
That's not really fair, Stuart. It's been raised many times. It's been councillors have been aware of it. I mean, it was raised in the last administration repeatedly, and Conservative councillors chaired the audit committee and were extremely concerned, but also accepted that it was out of the council's control, even though they were the opposition. I mean, I have to say, it isn't. It looked the way you frame it, Keith. It does sound like it's some sort of suspicious cover up, but there's nothing been hidden here. This is part of council minutes and cabinet minutes going back years. There has been a very conscious effort to try and sort this out. Now, things like council tax rises, again, outside my control. I'm not part of the administration. You have to speak to them. But at the end of the day, my understanding from Stephen Gauntlet as the chair of the audit committee, who's working very hard on this, is that we're close to resolving the issue. Is it a good thing? No, it's absolutely unacceptable, and it's made a lot of people very, very angry. But we are where we are, and hopefully the full accounts, when they're released, will show that the council's been behaving appropriately, and then going forwards, hopefully we won't have any of these problems again, because it's clearly completely unacceptable.
Yeah, well, I mean, James, we're bound to see things from a different point of view. That's our role in society, is to ask you difficult questions and you to actually come up with sensible answers. One of the things that bothers me about this audit thing is we simply don't know. We're not given any answers. And quite often the answer from a councillor or from the council is go to the website. Now, your own statistics about Lewes District is there are approximately 100,000 voters. 50% of them are over 50. Now, I was at Reuters when Windows first came in, and that was 1973. So if you figure it out, you've got half your electorate who are not computer illiterate. But you made no provision for that. No council has for the last 6 or 7 years. So we're not picking on you particularly. But you're asking people to access information in a way that they don't know how. And I personally am getting so bloody frustrated with what's happening with computers and internet and so on and so forth. And the people that develop it just talk their own language. So I give up. So it seems to me that one of the things that perhaps you should, as a joint council, look at is the way you actually impart information. Because if as you say, you're letting people know, you're not letting them know in a way that they understand.
Incidentally, I just had a little bit of box politics in the past 3 or 4 weeks, and I think it was about 70 people said that they don't want to know about the Greens because they're useless. Anyway, I'm going to do every month.
Though about the customer service side of things, the council's had a long-standing problem with this, like most councils. How do you contact the council? The phone line is not very easy to get through on sometimes, and there have been other issues. During the last administration, we resumed the paper newsletter, which we'd stopped doing, which now comes through, which is one way of reaching people who do not use don't use the internet. But yeah, it's an ongoing challenge, and there's a lot of frustration out there with reaching the council, particularly via means that are not digital. And I completely share that. Again, where they're up to now, I don't know. There's a cabinet member responsible for customer service or allowing residents to reach the council. You may want to speak to them, but it's an ongoing problem, and I certainly share people's frustrations. I've heard a lot of horror stories about people.
In the long run, you are elected. So we see you as representing our interests. We don't give a damn about the executive. You've got to handle the executive. And if we raise concerns, we expect you to give them a good kicking because we can't.
Yeah, Keith, it does get raised all the time. It's the reality is that this isn't this isn't Parliament. We don't have Prime Minister's questions, which you can see on TV every week. A lot of these discussions are happening, but they don't get any coverage. The reality is that we can ask the questions, but the reason I keep citing the executive is they are the ones who can make these things happen, not us. So all we can do is put pressure on, which on the accounts and on customer service, which you mentioned, we certainly are. There have been some issues recently. They had a big issue with council tax payments, where a lot of people got bills that they shouldn't have received, and we most certainly were very publicly raised questions about that particular issue, and we're keeping a very close eye on how that develops, because I believe there is a bit of a backlog now. So we do our best as the opposition, but you've got to remember we're not in Parliament here. We don't get the bandwidth, so a lot of these things are full councils next Monday, for instance, and that's our main.
You've got the thing down at the station about keeping the thing open. When they were going to close down all the offices in stations, you got that back. So you have done quite a lot of very good work. You're very good local, whatever it is. And can I just go for a while, if I dare? Is it going to be elections soon or later? Do you think? What is your guess? Are you able to suggest?
Are you in the starting blocks?
No, we're out of the starting blocks, I think, as you've probably seen from the amount of paper coming through your doors. But we don't. You guys, your guess is absolutely as good as mine on when the election will be. Rishi could wake up tomorrow morning, have his Weetabix, and decide that he's going to call an election. The Conservative Party right now is a house of cards that can fall down at any time. They're all fighting with each other. It's embarrassing to watch. And so they could call an election now. We could have one in May. We could have one in October. I think October is probably on balance more likely, but I wouldn't rule out a May election yet. He's still got a few weeks left in which he could call a May election if they felt that was the right thing to do. So, you can see that they're fighting away. The Conservatives are in full election mode, as are we, and we're going to make sure that we're we are going to.
Well, I agree with you. It seems that the Conservative Party is just disappearing in our view, isn't it? 13 years, and what have they achieved? All right, Rishi did do all right in Northern Ireland. It turned out because after I know I happen to know Boris quite well, and also I knew basically when he was Prime Minister, he filled his cabinet with second-rate people. And that was because he was fighting one of them was going to usurp it. Okay, in fact, one of them did usurp it, and we are now left with a bunch of second-rate people, none of whom, in my opinion, are capable of running the country. What would you say to that kind of rank?
You need him as your campaign manager, don't you?
Yeah, the quality. I mean, this is something I get on doorsteps quite often from disillusioned Conservative voters. Is they expect a level of the Conservative Party to be a party of competence, fiscal competence in particular, management of the economy, but also just all-round solid people who have backgrounds in business, in particular. And that's not what we've got. What we've got are people who are simply not capable of doing anything, let alone running a country. And the outputs of that have been cleared. Our public services are in tatters. The economy has been repeatedly, deliberately damaged, or not deliberately damaged, damaged by government incompetence and neglect. And that's just not something that people associate with what used to be the Conservative Party, and that's because they've changed. They've been radicalised. They've been taken over by a sect, the UKIPisation of the Conservative Party, and so those people now are in charge of the party, and the competent centrist Conservatives of the past have been driven out and purged, and that happened a few years ago. So they are a very different party now, and it is causing a lot of disillusionment with traditional Tory voters in particular.
But is it really possible for this right wing, Suella, whatever her name is, Suella thing, but calling this absolute, almost fascist right wing clique? I can't believe it's going on. It's just really ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, we shall see, but obviously, we're still seeing the impact of Brexit and the Brexit referendum on our political landscape and what that did to the Conservative Party, and it's become a kind of a sacred cow for them that they're not allowed to ever even mention the B word because that is now quite an unpopular thing in this country. So look, all we can do is we'll sit tight, we'll keep plugging away. I'm off to knock on doors in Polegate straight after this and talk to some voters over there. So we'll keep plugging away. We've got lots more lovely leaflets with my mug on them to come through your door, and hopefully people in Lewis will vote. We've got a lot of people switching from the Conservative Party. We've also, and we're really grateful to all these people who are voting tactically, who might vote Green or Labour at local elections. And
can I just follow up on your leaflets through the door? I mean, for better or for worse, I lived in Canada for 17 years, which is subject to the American way of life in many respects. I was a journalist there for over 10 years, so I tend to bring to the UK some what I consider to be good ideas from there. Number one is that whether it's a small town or a big city, they mostly have a press room set up in either the city council or the police headquarters or whatever, so they get to know the journalists. Secondly, the mayors there or the senior politicians quite often have their own program on television, weekly program. Now, Mirador, I understand, is that as politicians, you have to get used to us because we started small and we're still not large, but we're increasing our audience almost weekly. The figures are going up. But as a council, you don't use us. So you're stuffing stuff through doors, but you're not coming to us and sort of saying, can we have a chat, or can we even have our own segment each week? We are very open to the North American way of doing things, if you like. There's nothing wrong with that North American way, and perhaps it might be helpful in an age of electronic communication rather than people don't read anymore. Of us considering and chatting with you about that.
Yeah. Have a chat with the council about it. By all means, I can put you in touch with the relevant people there, and up
But it would be helpful for us because we do. I mean, we're non-partisan, despite some of the extreme talk about the Greens. We're non-partisan. We don't take sides. We do try to be the old CIO, Central Office of Information, COIO, and actually pass on what we deem to be important information. And I think that's important to the electorate.
Absolutely. Well, yep, I can put you in touch with relevant people at the council if that's useful to you, Keith. And as for the election, the sooner it comes along, the better. I think that's what I get on doorsteps. The real demand people have is, can we have a general election now? People are just sick to the back teeth, and I have to say there are a lot of people out there who are suffering right now. And I don't necessarily think that Keir Starmer and Labour are going to solve all of our problems, but I think most people's view is they can't be any worse than this lot. So we're looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to maybe having a bit of having a go at changing some of the issues that bother me in the constituency.
But Jane, I think I've talked to this before. You've got the charisma effect. I mean, politics is being colonised by celebrities. If people don't vote for Conservatives, they vote for for Boris. And that really is a bad thing, isn't it?
Because, and they vote for Doris.
Doris, yeah. No, it's happened in America with Trump, doesn't it, really? Because he's supposed to be rich.
Anyway, James, thank you very much for coming on. Yeah. But we would like to see you much more, because it's all very well. I and Stuart both have rants, but we can only work on the information we get. You are a source, and what you said this morning, for instance, is I totally accept the fact that we say that you're doing nothing, and you're saying, no, hang on. At council level, we're always busy burrowing away. We're always going to the executive and trying to find out answers to questions. But coming from you, it's got authenticity. Coming from us, it's criticism.
Yeah, always happy, Keith, to contribute, and good luck, guys, and hope the rest of the day goes well for you. And be in touch, and I'll come back on and update you with stuff in the future.
Super, thank you.
Lovely to see you.
Yeah. Thanks, James. James McCleary, who is our prospective member of Canada for Member of Parliament for the Lib Dems, but also the former council leader for us in this part of the world, Lewis District, and he's now a senior councillor with the Lib Dems in the present Lewis District Council.
I don't know.
Yes, he is. Yes. No, he's very, very active in local politics. Okay, Stuart.
Yeah, fine.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
Well, Stuart will be back next week with some more controversy and possibly another conversation with Stuart Dolby, where he brings in people from around the world and people of wide experience.
Well, actually, let me just tell James, you still there?
No, he's gone.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this ends this segment. We're all up in the air this morning because we our American lady who's involved in politics, Carol Sanders, has been on this morning, and unfortunately I don't have the ability to read what she's read, but we do, Carol. If you are watching, the 2Bs are very interested in having you on to interview you. So could you let me know on the private messenger site of these comments how we contact you, and if you're willing to come and be interviewed by them. Right, you are. All right. That's.
I think he's very good.
Yeah, it's all hotting up, and our programs now are more interesting than they've ever been. So do not only tune in, but please let other people know that if they want to hear a bit of raging controversy, this is the channel to tune into. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just looking for. There we go. From Lewis in the Black Horse Pony.